Ever feel like going green in the Cotswolds? It's kind of like, well, herding cats.
I feel ya. It can be a bit overwhelming.
Totally. But today, we're diving into this Cotswold Climate Action Network guide. They've really laid out like a roadmap, and we're going to see if we can actually make this place a beacon of sustainable living. What do you think?
I love it. This guide's great because they don't shy away from the nitty-gritty. They use all this local data, and trust me, it's eye-opening stuff about our impact.
Okay, so before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk footprint, right? Because the guide starts with this big distinction between two types: territorial CO2 footprint, and
Yep.
then there's consumption-based CO2 footprint. So the first one, that's all about emissions produced right here in the Cotswolds.
Yeah, like our local impact cars, businesses, even those sheep munching away in the fields.
Classic Cotswolds. But then it gets really interesting with the consumption-based CO2 footprint. This one, it's about the emissions we cause, even if they're happening halfway across the world.
It's a whole new way of thinking about our impact, right? It's not just about being a good neighbor locally. It's about recognizing those global connections.
Totally. So, like, where's the biggest ripple starting here in the Cotswolds?
Well, the guide says transportation takes the cake, biggest source of CO2 emissions.
No surprise there. I mean, ever tried to pass a tractor on those tiny roads?
Exactly. And that's why the guide's all about public transport. And not just for the planet, but think about it. Imagine ditching those stressful commutes, using that time to relax, maybe catch up on a podcast or two.
Sign me up. But let's be real, living out in the sticks, good public transport can feel like a bit of a myth. Speaking of myths, the guide mentioned this robin thing that caught my eye.
Yeah, the Robin is a bookable bus service, a really innovative solution, especially for our more, rural areas. They're trying to connect those harder to reach spots.
So instead of running on a fixed timetable, it's like you call for a ride when you need it.
Exactly. It's super flexible, runs 7 a.m. to 7 p. Monday through Saturday, a bit more convenient than your average bus route.
That's pretty cool, especially for those who rely on public transport or just want to ditch the car more often. But okay, for those bigger trips or like a massive grocery run, sometimes you need a bit more than a bus.
For sure. And that's where the guide's really big on active transport, walking, cycling. They're particularly into e-bikes. They even have resources listed if you're curious about how they work.
And we can't forget about cargo bikes. Those things are like the Swiss Army knives of transport. Groceries, kids. I even seen someone moving furniture with one.
It's incredible. And of course, no conversation about green transport is complete without mentioning electric vehicles. Switching to an EV, that's a big step towards shrinking your footprint.
Absolutely. But I gotta admit, I still wonder about the whole charging situation. Are there enough charging points popping up around here?
I get it, it's a valid concern, but the Cotswold District Council, they're on it. They're putting in more EV chargers all the time in public car parks and working with towns and villages to do the same. They're even prioritizing folks who don't have off-street parking.
Now that you mention it, I have noticed more charging points around. Okay, but what about those EV myths that are always floating around? Like that they're actually worse for the environment than petrol cars?
Ah, yes, the classic EV myths. It's amazing how misinformation spreads. But the good news is this guide tackles those myths head on. Like the whole EVs are worse thing, that just doesn't hold up when you look at the whole life cycle.
Right, it's not just about what comes out of the tailpipe, it's about the whole picture. Speaking of misconceptions, I was surprised by what the guide said about those EV salary sacrifice schemes.
Yeah.
I always thought those were only for company cars.
Nope, that's a common one. These schemes are getting really popular, even for everyday drivers. It's where your employer lets you lease an electric car and the cost comes out of your salary before tax.
So you could be driving a greener car and saving on tax? That's pretty tempting. But what about those of us who love to travel? Surely the guide isn't suggesting we just, like, explore the Cotswolds forever.
You're right, we can't forget about those travel bugs. And the guy doesn't. They get that air travel. It's not exactly a walk in the park for the planet.
So are they suggesting we all become Cotswolds explorers? Ditch the plane tickets for hiking boots?
Well, they do highlight those local adventures for sure. But for those times when a plane is unavoidable, they've got some ideas, like opting for shorter flights when you can. And for those trips to Europe, think about taking the train. Did you know a Eurostar to Paris? Way less CO2 than flying, like 90% less.
Wow, that's a pretty big difference. Sign me up for a train trip through the French countryside. But I gotta say, a future without flying kind of makes me a little sad.
I get it.
Yeah.
But the guide actually talks about all these cool advancements happening in aviation. Battery-powered planes, hydrogen fuel, sustainable aviation fuels, the works.
So there's hope for those jet-setting dreams yet. But for now, let's come back down to earth. Literally. We've covered getting around, but what about our homes? The guide says they're the second biggest culprit for emissions here.
Makes sense when you think about it. We spend a lot of time at home, and all that comfort, it takes energy.
True, true. So what are they suggesting? Like turning off the lights and living in the dark?
Not quite. They actually dive into some really practical solutions. And even better, they highlight local resources right here in the Cotswolds.
Okay, like what? Because let's be honest, making those old Cotswold cottages energy efficient, that sounds pricey.
It can be, for sure. But there's help out there. For one, they talk about this Cotswold Home solar scheme. It's all about making solar panels and battery storage more doable for homeowners.
Solar panels in the Cotswolds, can't say I hate the sound of that. Charming stone cottages, soaking up the sun, powering themselves, but do they really make that much of a difference?
They actually can. The guide says some homeowners have seen big savings on their energy bills. Plus, they've got these cool videos on their website, real people talking about how it's worked for them.
So it's not just good for the planet, but potentially good for the wallet, too. I like it. What about those of us who aren't quite ready for a full-on solar panel installation? Any smaller steps we can take?
Totally. There's this thing called the Retrofit Center. It's like a gold mine of information for making your home more energy efficient. Everything from simple stuff like LED lights to bigger projects like installing heat pumps.
Okay, so where do you even start with all of that? It sounds a bit overwhelming, to be honest.
It's easier than you think. They have this plan builder tool on their website. You put in your address,
Yeah.
and it gives you personalized recommendations for your house.
No, that's service, like having a personal energy advisor on speed dial. But I'm guessing all these upgrades, even the small ones, they add up. What about folks who might need some financial help to make those changes?
That's such an important point, and the guide addresses it. They talk about the Warm and Well program. It's specifically for low-income households, and it helps with those energy efficiency upgrades. Insulation, heat pumps, sometimes they even cover the whole cost.
That's incredible. Shows that going green isn't just for those with loads of cash. But what about those baby steps we can take right now? I remember reading something about turning down the thermostat.
Oh, yeah. It seems small, but the guide says even turning it down by 1 degree can make a difference in your heating bill, like up to 10%. They're also big fans of those smart thermostats and radiator valves. Fine-tune that energy use even more.
1 degree, I can handle that. And while we're on the topic of easy wins, gotta bring up LED lighting.
Right, so simple, but so effective. They last way longer than old school bulbs, so you save money in the long run, too.
They're like the superheroes of light bulbs.
Hmm.
Okay, so we've talked about small steps, but I'm curious about insulation. Crucial for energy efficiency, especially in older homes, right now.
Yeah, 100%. The guide's got a whole section on insulation, loft insulation, cavity wall insulation, even floor insulation. It's like wrapping your house in a big cozy blanket.
And in the Cotswolds, with all those drafty old houses, that insulation must be a game changer.
Totally. It's about staying warm in winter A&D, cool in summer. And bonus, if you're thinking about renovations or extensions, they've got tips for making eco-friendly choices from the start.
So it's about the now and planning for a greener future, too. All this talk about houses is making me hungry, though. Which brings us to something near and dear to our hearts and a big part of our footprint: food. It's funny how we can be so focused on, like, transport and energy, but then there's food. Kind of easy to forget about its impact, you know?
It's true, isn't it? We all got to eat, but those emissions from our plates, they can really add up. And the guide, it dives right into that.
So what's the Cotswolds' secret recipe for a climate-friendly diet, then?
Well, the message is pretty straightforward, actually.
Yeah.
Local and seasonal, that's where it's at. Makes sense when you think about it. The less our food has to travel, the better for the planet.
Mm.
They even recommend this website, Made in Gloucestershire, connects you with local food producers right on your doorstep.
Now that's what I'm talking about. Support local businesses, reduce those food miles, and eat delicious food while you're at it. Win-win.
Exactly. And it's not just about where our food comes from, but, making the most of it. They've got some great tips on reducing food waste, planning your meals, storing things properly. Those leftovers, they can be a culinary adventure waiting to happen.
So true. Food waste just kills me. I've been trying to be more mindful of it myself. And speaking of being mindful, we can't forget about the food banks. Donating surplus food fights waste and helps those in need. The guide actually mentions a few local ones, like feeding Gloucestershire and Cirencester Pantry.
Right. It all comes back to community.
Hmm.
Reducing our impact, it's not just about individual actions. It's about working together, creating a more sustainable future for everyone. Speaking of working together, have you ever heard of the term circular economy?
Vaguely, yeah. Refresh my memory.
So imagine a system where instead of that make, use, dispose cycle, it's more about reduce, reuse, recycle, keeping things in use for as long as possible, like those repair cafes.
Ah, right. Like the one in Cirencester, yeah. I actually fixed my old toaster there a while back. Talk about satisfying.
Exactly. Repairing, sharing, giving things a second life. That's the circular economy in action. And, it even applies to the digital world, too.
Wait, our digital lives have a footprint. I thought we were trying to reduce our emissions, not our internet history.
I know it sounds strange, right? But all those emails, videos we watch, even cloud storage, it all takes energy to run. Our digital footprint's bigger than we think.
Okay, had no idea. So, like, what's the digital equivalent of switching to an electric car then? Asking for a friend.
Honestly, sometimes the simplest things are the most effective. Declutter your inbox, unsubscribe from those newsletters you never open, that kind of thing.
A digital spring clean. I can get behind that. But before I disappear down an internet rabbit hole, let's get back to food. We talked about local and seasonal, but what about the types of food? Is the guide suggesting we all become vegetarians?
They do talk about plant-based diets a lot, and with good reason. Meat production, especially beef, it's a big emitter. But they're not saying everyone needs to give up meat entirely. More about balance and just being aware of where your food's coming from.
Swapping that steak for a veggie burger every now and then, right?
Exactly. Or trying out some new plant-based recipes. And even when you do eat meat, opting for sustainably sourced options can make a difference. Every little bit counts.
Absolutely. Now, we can't forget about the folks working hard to produce that food. Our farmers, our landowners, they've got a big role to play too.
100%. Agriculture, it's a major part of the Cotswolds footprint, but it's also a source of solutions. The guide talks about this idea of regenerative farming, all about improving soil health, increasing biodiversity, even capturing carbon in the soil.
Hold on. So it's not just about reducing emissions, but actually like helping the environment through farming. That's amazing.
Right. It's really cool. They talk about mimicking natural ecosystems, creating these thriving fields full of life, healthy soil, healthy food, healthy planet. It's all connected.
It's like turning farms into havens for biodiversity. I love it.
And I bet the food tastes amazing too.
I'm sure it does. Speaking of connections, I'm going to talk about businesses. They're a huge part of this whole sustainability puzzle, right?
For sure. Not
Mhm.
just their own impact, but also inspiring change in their communities, all that.
Yeah.
What's the guide's take on that? A lot of familiar themes, reducing waste, switching to renewables,
Okay.
offering sustainable transport options for employees. But they also talk about something called sustainable procurement, which is basically about choosing suppliers who are also on board with the whole sustainability thing.
So it's about businesses using their influence to make a difference. I like it.
Exactly. And there's this thing called B Corp certification, which is like a gold star for businesses who are seriously committed to social and environmental good.
A badge of honor, showing their walk in the talk. Love to see it.
It's inspiring, isn't it? And it's not just about businesses doing their own thing in isolation either. The guide's all about collaboration businesses working with communities, residents getting involved in local initiatives, creating a real movement.
It always comes back to that, doesn't it? That even small actions can create a ripple effect. Speaking of which, after diving into all of this, I'm feeling super inspired, but also a tad overwhelmed, if I'm being honest. Where do we even start?
That's the thing about this guide. It's not about ticking off every single box or becoming some kind of eco-warrior overnight.
Mm.
It's about giving us the knowledge and the tools to make informed choices.
Yeah.
Pick one thing that speaks to you. Maybe it's those LED light bulbs. Maybe it's trying a meat-free Monday and start there.
Small steps, big impact. I love it. And who knows, maybe those small steps will inspire others and those ripples will turn into waves.
Absolutely. And that's how real change happens. Remember, this guide, it's a starting point. There's always more to learn, more ways to get involved. The Cotswolds are full of amazing people doing incredible things, and together we can make sustainability more than just a goal. We can make it a way of life.